Once again, a very good afternoon, everyone. Thank you all for joining in for today's webinar. It's a 1-hour CPD session, and the topic is everything practice management. It's accredited for professionalism CPD credits. At uLaw, we do not deliver substantiative CPD credits. So just for your reference in future, in case you're regular CPD attendees of uLaw, I request you to note that we will not be providing substantiative CPD hours. We provide only professionalism CPD hours. And today's topic is everything practice management. The attendance link is provided in the chat window for all of you. It will be provided every 15 minutes once by my colleague, Ms. Stephanie. And any questions at any time, I request you all to use the chat window. And I'll be probably taking the questions towards the end of the session. Thank you once again for showing your support and joining in. As you all see, everything practice management is one of the most extensive topics, at the same time very important as well. So we choose to do this once in a quarter at least. So, as long as many new users can benefit from everything practice management, understand what are their basic professional obligations or various obligations in terms of professionalism, in terms of financial obligations, in terms of client management, in terms of matter management, the various avenues where you will have to make sure you're compliant with Law Society and you're observing the obligations and fulfilling them. Now, that's what forms part of everything practice management. It's a very nice topic, but sometimes it could be, relevant to your practice. Some things in this might not be relevant to your practice, but what I recommend here is to, pick what is necessary for your practice. Like, there's several things in here. Choose to start practicing these at your end as well. So it'll be, end of the day, you're meeting your professional obligations and you're able to fulfill them and be Law Society compliant. So that's the agenda for today's session. We start off with client intake, as every other practice, where we always start with client intake, service and communication. And that's the first point of contact with your client, which has to be impressive. At the same time, it has to fulfill your obligations required by Law Society. So we are going to look into what are those, followed by file management. If you're uLaw users, I would say matter management. So file, matter, both mean same, which means after you intake a client, you open a file for them, which is called matter in uLaw. So it's matter management or file management, whichever works for you. And financial management, which forms major part of clients' payments in, clients' payments out, trust payments in, trust payments out, or general payments in, general payments out. So it's about managing finance. Then comes into picture business management, which is, looking into your office expenses, looking into your other income, making sure your other revenue and cost, they're being added into your books appropriately. And at the same time, you're able to manage your business without any flaws. So we're going to look into that part as well. Professional management, making sure you're getting enough CPD hours and other things that needs to be making sure or ensuring that you're completing your professional obligations. Time management, very important in today's world. I think we're all always in crunch of time. So seeing how best we can manage that time. And last but not the least, is personal management. We're going to see also what are the things that you need to, this is not personal management, but this is personal management. Yes, yeah, I'm sounding it right. Many of us might think, what is there to, uh, meet as a professional obligation in personal management? But trust me, there's so much that would bring up or with your practice. So we'll also look into that towards the end. As you all can see, I'll keep moving slides as I progress. And the first one I'm going to talk about here is professional obligations. Professional obligations for client intake. So as I said, your everyday practice obviously starts off with intaking a client, servicing them, communicating with them, understanding their needs, understanding their requirements, and then forming a file for them or a matter for them. Now, when you're doing an initial communication with them, it's very important to record every minute detail as possible. Like, in the sense, if you're using uLaw, you can use phone docket, you can use scratchpad docket, you can use straight away docketing into the matter. There are different ways you can do it, but if you have not yet opened a file, if you don't have a matter yet, how do you record these conversations? How do you do these consultations? It's always important to record these detailed calls, correspondences, and making sure you're adding their details into the program that you're using and doing the conflict check and determining their fee structure, whether you're going to do a flat rate or billable time, whether you're going to charge them a retainer or you're going to do a billing and then get the money from them later on. What are the different types of trust accounts that you manage, and do you provide receipts? Also, end of the day, if you're not going to go ahead with this client, are you providing them with a non-engagement letter? Now, these are what you need to consider while you're intaking a client and, servicing them initial days. I would definitely recommend using something like a scratch pad, at least recording their dockets under each client, and making sure the day one you have a client, a prospective client rather, approaching you, you will have to enter their details such as their name, phone number, source of contact, and record their details in your database, post which you can perform the conflict check. And once the conflict check is performed, you can very well open a matter or a file, because you will know whether there's any conflict or not. So once you know whether there's any conflict or not, you decide to whether open a file or not. And once you have opened a file, then you can start adding in all the details of your calls, your consultations, your other dockets, determine the fee structure, like I already said, whether it's a flat rate or a billable time, and provide, if you're getting a trust money into your trust, if you're someone who's drafting a retainer agreement, collecting a retainer, you will have to provide a trust receipt. You'll have to provide them with a receipt for collecting the payment into the trust, followed by which you start doing the work, and we'll go on to billing stage and other stages that you will go through with this client. In the meantime, if you're not, after you do the conflict check, if you find there's a conflict or for some reason you're not engaging with this client, you can always refer this client to another lawyer or a paralegal and provide them with a non-engagement letter. It's super important to provide with a non-engagement letter. Many of us just skip that step, but I really recommend you all to download a simple non-engagement letter from the matter compliance tab if you're using uLaw, and send it out to them, as it's very important to show them that you're not providing any services to them, and there's no engagement between you and the prospective client going forward, at least. So once the intake process is complete for a client, now comes into the picture your retainer agreement. Somewhere in between, we spoke about collecting retainer and jotting down a retainer agreement to send them. Now, when you're creating a retainer agreement, there are certain things that you need to keep in mind. Definitely keep it as vast as possible. So, you're trying to communicate. This is one of the first official document that it's like a agreement. It is an agreement. Sorry, it's not like an agreement. It is an agreement that you are basically signing up between you and your prospective client, who's your client now, making sure that you're jotting down your responsibilities, your client's responsibilities, both your scope of matter, any risks that is associated, method of communication, frequency of communication, how would you like them to pay the retainer, what are the kind of arrangements you're making in here, and if you have any other communications that you'd like to make, this is the point, or this is the step where you make that decision and communicate it to the client, ensuring that they're well aware and they're well kept posted about what they need to know before they're getting into whatever they're getting into with you and your firm. Once the intake is done, the retainer agreement is made. I mean, if you're someone who uses uLaw, there is a retainer agreement that is readily available in the program for you. Now you can use a PDF version if you're okay with what is available in there, or you can use a Word version that is available in there to download and make the changes. So while you do all of those, you can eventually then move on to getting your retainer done, your retainer arrangements done, your other retainer agreement details being entered in the retainer agreement. So making sure it's a very intact one, so that end of the day it is covering all the responsibilities and scope of matter and details that it needs to carry out in order to be more clear to the client. As I said, once the client intake is done, the next step is to collect the retainers and proceed with the file. If you're someone who has a trust account and has the habit of collecting retainers, that is, some do not collect or work on retainer basis, they just directly jump into the work and later on raise an invoice and send it to the client and ask them to pay into the general account. That is also totally fine. It absolutely works on the way you decide to work with your client. So the next step towards being professionally obligated or being able to fulfill your professional obligation rather is file management. So we all know that once you have added in the client, you have added in the matter or opened the matter, which is also called as file management or matter management, like I already mentioned. File checklist is very important, and it's one of the top priorities. I always say that if you have a file checklist, there's no way you're going to miss out on any documents or processes. And then you're going to make sure your conflict completed, you have multiple matters, make sure you're going to have a separate or a respective matter for that client. And you're somehow organizing all the files in a chronological order. It could be through alphanumeric file numbering system, or it could be through any other method that you're using to ensure that chronological and secure organization of electronic files is important. So I always recommend using unique identification numbers for your files, so that way there's no confusion when it comes to adding in amounts into trust or general respectively. You can look out for that unique file number and add them easily, even though they are somewhere not linked to one file and the other file. But that's the idea, making sure that you have a unique file number, so that way you don't mix up on the file information or transactions. And making sure all the client activities, interactions, correspondences, everything is recorded, and there's some cross-indexing. So you'll have to manage the file organization in such a way that you're able to go back in and check each and every file as to what is the work done in there, and whether you're able to get all the details for each file that you have entered in there. So a checklist is important. Conflict check completion is important. Having separate files for separate matters, having chronological and secured organization of electronic files, and having personal recording of client interactions, which is sorry about that. Yeah. So having any personal recordings or correspondences or any interactions with the client that needs to go on the dockets, and proper organization through numeric indexing or other information that needs to get on a file needs to be available there. Now, the file management, like I said, it can be it can be as minimal as possible, or it can be as vast as possible. So it depends on what is your area of practice, what is your concern, what are your concerns rather, and what needs to get into your file. That is very important. Some people like to add information of the clients, like their driver's license, their other information under the same file management, under document management. If you're using uLaw, you'll find document management in there, so you can store all the documents in there. So there are different ways you can secure all your file management. So if you're someone who likes to have all your data in one place, you can sync them to your Google Drive, OneDrive, and add in all the information in one place for each matter. That way you don't have to keep going around looking for the file information. The next step towards being professionally obligated or fulfilling the professional obligation is financial management. And financial management is definitely something that is going to decide, your compliant with law society. It ensures from day one you're able to add in the information for your hourly rates, your billable time, whether you're doing a flat rate. So deciding on your fee scheduling, that is, whether it's flat rate or billable time, and ensuring that you're recording the details appropriately, raising the invoices, sending it to the client on time, of course, uh, whether you're using email method or you send them on your, I don't think these days people send them a physical copy, but they at least deliver invoices to client using electronic format. Once the invoice is sent, you can move money from trust to the general if there's any funds lying in your trust account. If not, you can collect the money from the client into the general account directly, as now you have raised the invoice. So the concept is very simple. You have money lying in trust. Now you want to make that money yours. You will have to enter information as to what is the work you have done in order to earn that money as dockets. Some raise flat rate dockets, some raise billable time. So a proper fee scheduling, whether it's hourly rate or flat rate, needs to be done. And then once you've raised the invoice, you can transfer the money from trust to the general, because now that is technically your money. And once that is done, you can then pay yourself from your general account. And at the same time, if there's any overpayments in any of the accounts in trust or general, you can take a look at it and add in the information appropriately. So recording of all general accounts through receipts and disbursements entries are also important likewise. It's not alone just the trust account maintenance, but sometimes people don't pay as much importance to the general account, because general account adding in information as to whether the money that is coming from the client or from somewhere else, or it's your own money that you're injecting into the firm. There are different types of deposits and withdrawals that can always happen in a firm or in a business, and recording of each and every transaction into their respective ledgers and journals are very, very important. And end of the day, making sure you're maintaining original bank statements and matching it with your transactions that you've entered in the books. Now that process is what is called as reconciliation, because let's say you've added in all your trust payment deposits and withdrawals, then you've added in all your general account payments, deposits and withdrawals. Then what is remaining is your maintenance of original bank statements and books, making sure that you're matching, you've added in transactions in such a way that they're absolutely matching with each other, and that you're able to conduct the reconciliation. And if there are any canceled checks, you make a note of it. If there are any duplicate deposit slips, you keep a copy of it as well. So you're able to, end of the day, maintain the books and at the same time completely reconcile your accounts and be compliant with Law Society. Now, this is not just alone your Law Society compliance. I feel it's way beyond that. It also includes being responsible towards preparing your firm's health, financial health, understanding how much are you, raising as an income, how much are you expending, how much are you contributing towards your annual budget and other things. So end of the day, it's very important for you to maintain these accounts, and you also have the right set of transactions in there, like from your financial statements to your bank statements to your general accounts, trust accounts, tracking any payments that has come and gone out, any overpayment, so you return them back safely into to the client from the respective bank accounts. So now a lot of the times I've come across, as I speak to you all, I've come across one of these situations where when I see overpayments into accounts, I can remember that I can give you an example actually. Let's say you have a client who is paying you into the trust account. You have raised an invoice and you have transferred the money from trust to the general. Now, there's a slight overpayment from the client. Now, that's lying in your trust, which is actually supposed to be refunded back to your client from the trust. This is something I've seen a lot of people do, is that they refund it from general because their trust account doesn't have a facility of doing an email transfer. Now, that's not really right, because anything that let's say if you're refunding from client to the client from the general account, then you cannot technically show it as if it's refunded from the trust. I have to actually recommend you then move the money from trust to the general, then pay the client out of the general account, which is not the right way to do it. So if you have money lying in trust, which is an overpayment, you return to them from the trust. Likewise, if you have money lying in the general, which is an overpayment, while you're tracking it, you found out, then you refund them from the general. So always money in, money out from the respective bank accounts, so you don't confuse. You handle them totally separate. You all understand? Hopefully that makes sense, because otherwise it's a lot of hassle when you actually move out of an account that that doesn't have any overpayment. So make sure that you're all following these points in order to be compliant with Law Society and professionally obligated for your financial management as well. Moving on to the next one. So why are we doing all of this? Making sure end of the day you sit and prepare your journals, ledgers, your trust reports. Now, I think we're all aware of using different programs, and if you're all uLaw users, you know, end of the day you enter trust and general deposits and withdrawals. Then we give you the receipts journals, the disbursement journals, the ledgers, and help you also to, complete the reconciliations on a monthly basis. Now, in order to do all of this, you will have to add in the information into the respective accounts, ensuring there's money that's come in, gone out, which will provide you receipts and disbursements journal respectively. And ledger is more, it's not a very detailed format, whereas journal is more detailed format of focusing on a receipt or a disbursement. But a ledger is more generic, which will have both receipts and withdrawals in one sheet, where you can see the client's money come in and gone out. So end of the day, we all try to add in the money that is come in, gone out for a respective client, so that you can generate these documents and again be compliant with Law Society. So make sure that on a monthly basis, if you're using uLaw, you can click on Compliance tab and you'll have all of these documents available in a jiffy, literally. So you'll have journals, ledgers, journals with receipts, disbursements, and ledgers for both trust and general. So end of the day, make sure that it's completely matching with the bank. You're adding in all the transactions. You're reconciling on a monthly basis. You're following all the information that you have with the client. And you're able to generate these reports that you need to for the client's betterment and for your professional obligation too. Moving on to the next one. I know we all focus more on, the financial management, client management, and at the same time, the file management and other things. But I think sometimes we miss to add in the information that is something that is not paid attention to, which is more like your business management, professional management. There's certain things that revolves around this part, but we all tend to miss it, or we all tend to give less importance to it. And one such topic is the business management, where I highly recommend for the ones who are doing their accounting manually, please consider using a software, which is a legal practice management software that will enable you to have more efficient usage towards your practice, ensuring that you're able to run your business in a more, efficient manner, and at the same time more secured. You're having your backups, you're having regular media backups, and file maintenance and regular backups is important. So you're able to get that from the software that you're using, and at the same time you can also have your own security backups available always in your system that you're using. And then you have today's world, everything is secured, everything has its own, at the same time where, hacking is super easy, you also have robust security on each and every device that you're using. Like, for example, if you're using an Apple iPhone, you have this Face ID, which is definitely not that easy to crack. And if you're using your other mobile devices, make sure you have some sort of robust security features that you have implemented in your device that you're using. You have secured password. You have you don't use let's say you don't use public Wi-Fi's, and you keep a best use of your security devices, that probably sometimes you can keep it in locked places, making sure that, because it contains very sensitive information, it is very important for you to have secured backup and security in the devices that you're using. And most important of all in today's world, easily able to access it from anywhere, like remote access. You shouldn't worry about having it on one device and, let's say that device is in your office and you have all the, and you are at your home and you'd like to access some details of your clients and other details that you need, which you cannot literally go back into your office until the next few days. I know we all went through this situation during COVID. So that's when it started ringing the bell to people that, okay, remote access is something that we need to really work on. So that's when people started considering practice management and started using more of that. So I recommend, whether it is COVID or not non-COVID, it is better to use a software that is making your business meaningful and more efficient to use. And at the same time, your client is able to have that, professional treatment where you're able to deliver them invoices on time, where you're able to deliver them settlement statements, accounts, and other information on time. Where you have security, you're having, remote access from anywhere. So all of these are very important from day one of your practice. But at least if you have not done that on day one, better late than never. Make sure you opt for one today and start using a software that will help you be compliant with Law Society and at the same time to fulfill the obligations that you need with your client management. While I was talking about other managements such as file management, client management, business management, there's also professional management that makes it really important for all of you to complete before every year. So on a yearly basis, you will have to complete as few CPD hours, then have your membership associations. You have to register with them. You have to renew your memberships, making sure all the new case laws have been reviewed and all professional conduct guidelines have been reviewed as well. So you're on top of all your professional management and making sure that you are well aware of the requirements that you need to fulfill right from day one of becoming a lawyer or a paralegal. And as I mentioned, time management is one of the most important things, even though it's least, addressed. Time management, all of us might think this is something that is, extra, or this is something that is not necessary. But trust me, when you have a better time management, it's so easy to maintain your system, your records, right from your list that you have to do, and maintaining your active files, maintaining or any SFS work, any kind of that is non-billable activity works, that is maybe your pro bono or other files that you want to keep a track of. You have to make sure from day one you have all the information entered in here, and you have a tab. You have a tab of all of these that has details that you need to maintain these records. So make sure that you have everything that you need for managing your time well. Personal management, as I said, one of the last few slides that we are talking about. Personal management is something that making sure you're very satisfied with what you're doing, your legal practice, you're enjoying the area of practice that you've chosen. You're only then obviously you will grow in that particular area of practice, progress well, and have a satisfied growth, which is very important. And recording all the time that you've spent at work and ensuring a proper work-life balance, making sure that you are, at the end of the day, you feel that the stress levels are at its, minimum, making sure that, you have taken your vacation when you have to, you've worked throughout when you have to, you can see your growth, you can see your progress, you can see your financial success. You can also at the same time feel very satisfied with your area of practice. You enjoy it. You really are able to give into it, and you feel very successful overall. That's what it is more about, personal management. So in terms of everything practice management, let me recap a little bit before I probably go into uLaw to show all of you how everything works, because that's the platform I represent, and I'd like to show all of you how it looks in there. But from the benefits of everything practice management, I feel end of the day, it's your decision that you make in order to be compliant with Law Society, and at the same time be able to practice from anywhere. If you're taking a nice practice management, you'll see that efficiency in practice, that the system does all the reports, it does everything that you need. It has all automated features, saving you more time than what really matters. And it obviously reduces overhead cost, because you're able to do all of this on your own instead of have several employees doing this for you. So you have to choose a software that will enable you to do all of this. right from, file organizations to docketing to disbursement management to file or matter status update. All of this, including understanding what is needed for your business improvement, whether it is something that is needed to be taken as a corrective action, whether you're a sole practitioner, you need to understand your practice well, whether you are working towards matter analytics for your law office to ensure all the data has been amalgamated and completing all components that's required for your analysis with the data. Of course, you've presented in the firm, and that end of the day, it's about, managing your all tasks in one place. Hence, managing your calendar also forms a part of, everything practice management, syncing your personal calendars with the software calendars that you're using. Now, if you're someone who's using uLaw, you know that uLaw can synchronize with Google calendars. So you can synchronize your personal calendars and uLaw calendars or any other program that you're using. You have your daily, weekly, monthly viewing of your agenda. What are the matters that needs to be docketed, anything for hearing, anything for client visit, everything needs to be added in there in the calendar so you're able to review them all in one go. And all of this is done by you if you are using practice management software, that is, in case, right? It's instead of having several employees do all of this for you. So it's managing your own practices, finances, have a very seamless integrated accounting, using very powerful tools for analysis, and at the same time, report to Law Society about all of these reports that they need, the ledgers, the journals, the reconciliation reports, and whatnot. So if you're someone who is not using uLaw, I would say take a bit of time and sign up today for a 30-day free trial. You can go on our website, uLaw.io. We've probably not updated the slide here, sorry about that. But uLaw.io is our website, and I request all of you to check it out for, understanding how it can change your practice for better. All right, since I have about 15 minutes, I'm going to take this opportunity to show all of you how everything looks at our end when you're using uLaw. So definitely starting off with client management. There are different ways you can manage your client. You can send them a client intake form. You can use a client portal, or you can just manually add a new client and add in information such as you want to make sure that you have all the information in here. So such as the file name, whether they're adding in as I can just add in the name, or I can choose to go one step ahead and add in, let's say, details such as source of contact, address, phone number, email, given as much as information as possible, and enter information such as, let's say, you want to start off with whether it's a client. I've added it as a client, so there's no other way I'm going to add them as another contact. You can then click on action, do a conflict check, make sure the conflict check is completed before you proceed with opening a matter. Now, that's first step towards being compliant with your law society, ensuring that you're adding in everything that you need to be compliant with your own law society. And once that's done, you can then go ahead and open the matter. Now here, here's the potential conflicts that we have. So, of course, it picks up the names of the matters with man in it because I added something called Batman, and of course, names with man in it again. So we try to pick up potential conflicts with last name, similar sounding name, partial name appearing. The different things that we show you on being compliant for your conflict check. Now, once that's done, you could open a matter. So now here is where the matter management or the file management comes into place. So you'll have to describe this matter briefly. Let's say this is something to do with speeding ticket. And we are adding in, let's say, provincial offenses. If there's a court file number, add in here. Add in as much as details as possible. Now, that's something that will not let you miss out on any information, making sure whether it's a flat rate file or whether it's a billable time file, whether you have assistant or you don't have assistant, you can choose to add in all the information, whether if you're below $32,000, if you're not charging taxes, then make sure to make this 0 and save it. Now, if you're using uLaw, you'll know that uLaw automatically shows your default tax code, whether you're in Ontario or British Columbia or Alberta or New Brunswick, we show the tax code appropriately. Let's say you're adding in, so it's always also important to add in information that is required for your, your docketing, making sure your correspondences are recorded appropriately. Every time you meet the client or every time you interact with the client, let's say you had a phone call and you want to add in that, it's about 6 minutes. You want to make sure you want to add in that information in here. So just add in autofill billable. So it's very important to add in all the dockets as you progress with this file, in this file as in, and ensure that there are different tabs here, such as matter events, where you add in all the event happenings, all the dockets. Then you have disbursements and retainer. Here's where you add in new retainer. You click on new retainer and then you say, okay, I have to add in the retainer that this client paid me into the trust. Now, before I add in a retainer, when did I give a retainer letter to this client? So then it rings a bell to you. Then you come back into compliance tab. Then you click on retainer letter, and then you could download whichever format you want. Let's say you're entering the $500 retainer here. Then the retainer letter gets downloaded, and you get to see this is the retainer letter where you're asking this client for a $500 retainer before you begin the work. So then you're compliant with Law Society, and once again, so you're also fulfilling your professional obligations of delivering a, letter, retainer letter, where all your terms and conditions, your agreement is being prepared with the scope and nature of your fee, your, termination details, if any, communication, how do you like to communicate with them? All the other details are entered in here. Then you go back into your program. Once the client has paid you, let's say they email transferred you this money, then you click on new retainer. I'm clicking on retainer again, once again. Or you could choose to go into the respective bank accounts, click on the deposit in here, and then click on new retainer. Then you can also add it this way. Or you could also click on action. Then you can click on, is it deposit in general? No. Is it withdraw from general? No. Is it deposit in trust? Yes. Is it a new retainer? Yes. So there are 3 different ways in which you can add a retainer into the account. choose the appropriate method of payment. Now, many of us make this mistake of not choosing the method of payment and not entering reference number. I won't say it's your mistake. It could be your bank. It could be your bank statement. But most of us, when we are making the transaction, will definitely have some sort of reference number. There's, you can take a screenshot of it, because many of us wait until we see the bank statement and try to copy it from there. And sometimes the bank statements don't print it. They don't print all the information. They just probably just print the date and what is the type of the deposit or withdrawal, then the amount, and they close with it. But when you're making a trust transfer or when you're accepting an email transfer, there's definitely going to be these reference codes. So try to make a note of it, take a screenshot, save it in your folder. So that way you can always enter these reference numbers if they're really important. Because let's say you're being audited and you want to make sure that you have to have all these information so that the auditor can cross-verify with the financial statements that you have, and that way you are also compliant with Law Society, and also your professional obligation is being fulfilled. And remember, there was a point where when you draft a retainer agreement, then you collect a retainer, then you record it and issue them a receipt. Now, this is the stage we are in where we have issued them with a retainer receipt with all the information of who was it issued for, who was it issued by, how did I receive this, how much amount, the date, the reference numbers, the method of payment, signatures, everything possible in here. Then I've also added in some events, about $90 in here. You want to add in disbursements, please go ahead and do it at this stage. Add in disbursements. Let's say it's an application fee. Let's say it's about $150 plus taxes. You're also entering it in the bottom portion because you paid using your bank account. Could be your business credit card because you did an online payment. Again, see how much information I'm giving out, like the method of payment, the reference numbers, the taxes also, whether it is tax exempt or it is non-tax exempt. Everything can be entered in appropriately. So it's very important to enter the details accurately so that end of the day it matches with your bank records and what actually happened. And you will then be able to raise an invoice, send it to the client, and then transfer the money from trust to the general and make it yours. So until you have not raised an invoice, you cannot transfer the money from trust to the general, because then it's the common money in the trust, right? It's the client's money in the trust. If you want to make it yours, you have to tell the client what is it that you're moving for. You have to tell them, I had a client meeting for 30 minutes and I had a phone call with you for 6 minutes. So for 36 minutes, I'm charging you $90 plus the application fee of $150. An overall cost, of course, I have $500 already in the trust for an overall cost of $150 plus $90, which is $240. I'm transferring this money from trust to the general, leaving a $260 balance in the trust. So this is how detailed your invoice must be. And sometimes people say that, hey, you know what, my invoice is too big. Is there a way? Of course, you can do an eco-friendly invoice. You could do only summary if you don't want to show your client all of this information that I just showed you. But it's nice to have as much as, okay. I have people saying maybe I have to slow down. Sure. Okay. This is definitely, it's a CPD, but I'm just trying to get as much as possible. But if there's any part you want me to repeat, I'd be happy to repeat. Please let me know which part would you like me to repeat. So we were on the contacts. I think we created a contact. We did a conflict check from action, conflict check. That was done. Then we opened a matter when you were adding disbursement. Sure. I could definitely do that. Thank you for stopping me. I could have rushed in there. Sorry about that, guys. So let me show you. Okay, so there's a separate topic for disbursements, but I'll also again show you how this disbursement was done. So I added the disbursement from general account. Okay, now general means general, credit card, cash, other accounts too. So I added, let's say I want to do photocopies this time. Last time I added application fees. This time I'm doing photocopies. Let's say I'm charging my client $50 plus taxes. Now, last time I added the bottom portion because I really paid for the application fee. I paid on behalf of the client. But this time, this is something that is with profit, which is called photocopies, where I used my own printer, and I'm not charging anything for it. So as in, I was not charged anything for it. So I'm leaving my bottom portion empty. So when you are spending for anything, you enter the bottom portion. When you're not spending, then leave it empty. The top portion is what you're charging the client. Taking out of client's trust and even when it's taken out of general is totally different. So the question is really nice and valid, but here's the thing. Always follow, for disbursements, always follow the money. You would have spent for it from your general, but you still have to reimburse yourself. Now, how do you do that? So I am adding this disbursement into my invoice as if I paid for it from my general account. So let's say, for instance, this one is courier, not photocopies, okay? Let's say I actually spent $50 plus taxes on this. So the top portion, I'm telling my client I spent for this money. And the bottom portion is something that I am basically incurring. I have spent for it using my general account or my credit card, my business credit card or my personal credit card, whichever method of payment. And I use the reference numbers, other things to add it, and I save it. Now, the concept behind doing this is that you are letting the client know that you have added a disbursement and you've incurred this disbursement on their behalf, and that you're going to pay yourself with the money that is lying in your trust account. Thank you so much, Raquel. I'm glad I was able to make sense. Okay, I have more questions coming in. Viewer number 26. For the invoices, is there a way of just showing the recent transactions instead of showing whole history or totals of? It is, again, playing around with the theme and format that you would want to use. If you are someone who likes to use, something like default theme, you will always have the disbursements and retainer history coming up in your upcoming invoices, but at least you won't have the dockets that you have previously invoiced. That is not going to show. Now, next time when I'm raising an invoice, these dockets will not show in there. But the retainers and disbursements that are not even the disbursements, the retainers, that is the trust payments come in and gone out, those will technically show up, and that is something that you cannot avoid. But it's good to have a trail of all the information that you need, definitely. Okay. All right. So just quickly going to show you all how invoice can be reprinted or completed further, because I added another disbursement. now I can transfer more money from trust to the general. And by clicking on question mark, just simply click on transfer. Then you can transfer the money from trust to the general of what is lying in your trust account. If you have $500 in there, but you still are not moving all the 500, only 296.50, because that's all what you've invoiced for. You've invoiced for about $90 of your legal fee, $150 of your application fee disbursement, 56.50 of your courier cost. So that is what you're moving from trust to general electronically. So you are entering the reference number followed by transfer. Then you can download a Form 9A, which is part of the financial management, making sure you're compliant with Law Society. All of these are part of your professional obligations being, obligated towards financial management. You're able to add in all of these, download the Form 9A. It's available again. Don't worry if you have missed to download this while you're doing the transfer. It's readily available for you under compliance. So all that I did now today for you all, just would like to show, remember we saw about ledgers, journals, reconciliation documents. All of them are available under compliance tab for you. Sure, I can definitely show you how that's done again. Let's say we are going to click on that and undo this transaction. So I can show all of you how it's done again. Okay. Let's say we close this, go back into matters, click on the question mark, and click on transfer. Okay, so once you've raised an invoice, you get the transfer symbol here under your question mark. Click on it, transfer your eligible invoices. Then, of course, you're going to enter the date on which you're doing the transfer. Then the method of payment, you're electronically done it, you've used a check, and enter the reference number. Okay. Once you transfer, you will automatically see a Form 9A download option. Then you can click on whatever information that is missing, download it, and you see it right here. Is that good? Thank you. A quick information to all of you. This is available, this session is available for a 90-minute CPD credit. It's not 60-minute. I apologize. It's available for a 90-minute CPD credit, everything practice management. So kindly update the information at your end, but once you've given attendance, you're going to be fine. But you can go in and claim a 90-minute CPD credit from your respective CPD portals. If you type in the title, everything practice management. Let's say I have more documents under compliance, monthly compliance, to keep your financial management going. Then you have, let's say, these documents that you can download. But you'll see that it'll show clients general, whatever happened in the clients general. You have billed them today for 296.50, and it has been transferred from trust to the general. And you go back, do the same thing for trust, and you'll see how you've received the retainer and transferred the money from trust to the general. So you received a $500 retainer, then you transferred 296.50 from trust to the general. Then you also have the journals, which is more detailed version of what happened in your ledger. So ledger shows only both withdrawals and deposits, but whereas the journal shows only one of it, which is either receipts. So this is a receipt journal for your general account. So it shows the trust transfer from trust to the general. Likewise, if you look at client's trust receipt, you will actually see the retainer of $500 alone that is coming here. So as the name goes by, whether client's trust receipt or client's general receipt or payment or disbursement, you get to see whether it is payment come in or gone out respectively. And in general disbursement, this is interesting. You'll see the disbursements that was made from the general account, the $50 plus taxes, and the $150, which is the disbursements that you made from the general account. That makes, I hope it makes more sense to all of you now, that it is very important to add in all the information from the trust account to the general account for all of it that you need, right from the day one for your client intake, retainer agreements that we saw, entering the retainers, giving them a retainer receipt, adding in the dockets, raising an invoice, adding in disbursements before you raise an invoice, then you raise an invoice together, then you add in all the information into your trust transfer, then you complete it. After you're done with that, you'll be able to download all the forms you need from the compliance tab. And even if you forget to download your form 9A before, but you can download it now. Let's say for today's date, I did only one transfer so far. If you have done multiple transfers, it will show up here. Your form 9A is right here. Other than this, I think it's very important for you all to maintain the calendar. You can synchronize your calendar, which is right here with Google Calendar. If not, please use the uLaw calendar to update all the details, your work in progress. If you're doing pro bono billing, you can add in those as well here. You have Scratchpad for time dockets here, where if you're working on several matters, you can add in the information over here and add in the title and then take action, and you can add it into the respective matters. So you have other, timesheet revenue that you can also, take a look at. So please make sure to add in those. Yeah, it's pretty much it. And at the end of the day, you're doing all of these to know the analytics of your firm's health. What is your revenue? What is your expense? What is your profit and loss? What is your fee book? How much fee have you made for each category? What is your unbilled hours? Have you done any pro bono? Let's say by the date range, quarterly. Let's say again over here, date range, quarterly, profit and loss. And you will get to see your firm's health. You know whether you have really made profit or loss, or, you can also know the fee book by category, which means how you've been performing in each area of practice, like, for real estate, criminal law, immigration. What is your area of practice? How much are you using? Okay, so yeah, right from the day one, as you start with adding information of the client to proceeding with contacts, quick view, contacts and matters, adding in the client and opening their file, ensuring the unique file number is there. Why do I need this unique file number? Because I can go into quick view and look out for this client's file based on this number, and I can just add in, or I can just add in the client's name and just look up for the client right here. So it's very important for you to add in the right information of the client, so you can see all the information that you need for the client. And end of the day, let's say there's money remaining in the trust, you want to refund your client, you can just withdraw from trust. Remember, this was the excess payment that we were talking about. Let's say you want to transfer this money, you can just transfer this money from trust to the client. Just a refund of excess payment. Now, don't transfer this from trust to the general, then pay from the general. Just do it directly from the trust, as the money is there in your trust account. You can write them a check. You can do a electronic or a wire transfer, but make sure that you're transferring it from the right account. Awesome. So if you see now under trust very clearly, the $500 that came in, then what you transferred from trust to the general, what was remaining was refunded as excess payment to the client. So now the balance is all zero and everything is zeroed out. Now if you click on statements, do a trust plus general, you'll see both trust and general at $0 at the end, because everything was that came in has gone out. Okay. I think that's all it is. Come to end of the session. I'd like to thank all of you for joining in for today's webinar. Any questions? I'd like to open the floor for any questions. I think as you all keep asking more questions, I'm able to explain more in detail, because it's nice to have more queries coming in. Thank you so much, viewer number 26, for the feedback. I am glad I'm able to give out this information, but it's very important that you go back and implement this in your practice. Try to spend that 10 minutes every day to dig into these documents, letters, court forms, all these documents. End of the day will just only make you more compliant with Law Society, and all your professional obligations are fulfilled, and end of the day it makes you feel more satisfied and more proud of doing it all by yourself. Like I said, you don't need anyone doing this, because you have a software that would help you to do all of this on your own. So it's very, very important for you all to implement this in your practice. It's not just enough. Sometimes we have the software, but we tend to do the basic stuff, and we might skip these documents or receipts, or adding additional information, or using the calendar, or checking out the analytics to gauge your firm's health. There's so many things that you can practice on a daily basis, on a regular basis. Try to do that. And if you're already a uLaw user, reach out to us for support on support@uLawPractice.com, and we'll be happy to assist you. Just to keep the recording short, I'm going to cut down the recording, stop the recording right now, unless and until anyone has any useful questions that I could answer, and I could, get this better. Thank you, viewer number 55, for your feedback. Thank you all for joining in. It's a pleasure talking in front of all of you. It's really nice to have so many of you join in. I hope it's made a difference to all of you. Any questions are welcome in chat window, or you can also email us on support@uLawPractice.com. Thank you all once again. I'm just going to stop the recording here and open the platform for more queries. Thank you.